going on? It's Kevin Kenny. This is the Build Series live in New York City, and the gentleman to my side is a multi-platinum singer-songwriter who's, what do we call this? Is it an album? Is it an animated short? Is it soon to be a stage production? The Wrong Man. We're going to chat about that. Please welcome Ross Golan, everybody.
Thank you.
This is, I mean, it's so wild. I mean, talk about like a 360-degree experience with this concept, and really a concept that 14 years in the making.
Yeah, it's something like that. I mean, you know, the first song I wrote in 2005, and, you know, I was always into murder ballads. So whether it was Merle Haggard or it was Tupac or it was Johnny Cash or Eminem, the murder ballad, the protagonist is always the murderer. And I thought it'd be interesting to tell a murder ballad where the guy didn't do it. It just took me 14 years to kind of finish from there to where we are today. Yeah.
So it started as the initial concept is a song?
Yeah. So
just a single song.
It started with a song, but it was everyone's favorite song. And so I figured, well, why don't I describe how this guy gets there? You know, later I'll play you some. And so the concept album starts with essentially this song. And then when you hear the rest of the album, you figure out how he gets in this predicament. So, you know, I would play. The good part about being really broke is that you have plenty of time to make art.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of those next few years after I wrote the first song just entertaining my friends, writing the next song. 2010 comes around and I start playing it for people in houses where I said, well, here's the story, The Wrong Man. And people would say, well, can I host it? You know, I said, sure, why not? So I'd go to the next house. They said, can I host it? Sure, there. Then people would say, can you send me a link? Or can you send me an MP3 or a CD? And I would say, no, but I'll fly to you. So I flew to Sydney and New York and Chicago, Nashville, but I never recorded it. It was only word of mouth. And in an era where everyone was posting on, you know, whether it's YouTube or whether it's, you know, it's just an email with an MP3, I refused to make it just a link. And so until 2 weeks ago, you had to hear it in person in order for you to hear it. So the album is the first time you can actually hear The Wrong Man without me being the one performing it in your room.
That's incredible. And of course, it's such a cool story now, right? Because you came out the other side, huge success. But how scary was that to do something different? Because in the world of LA and even songwriting, right, in that inner circle, it's not the, you got to be a brave person to kind of do something different. Right? I mean, it's kind of an industry nowadays. I mean, we don't have time to really get into the intricacies of it, but like everybody's sounding like everybody, right? There's, you know, the algorithms are ruling playlists and whatnot. And I think that, where did you find that courage to do something so different?
One thing is I appreciate your comments right now because I think a lot of people don't recognize, people tend to think people are as successful as the day you meet them. And the struggle that it goes through for all artists, all songwriters, you know, just to believe that what you're doing is worthy matters. All you need is hope. It's this fuel for a songwriter. And I would play it in people's living rooms, and they would say that they really liked it. By the time I, you know, this is like 2013 or 14, I started playing it where it was a really complete thought, enough so that I actually did, where I played it with you know, there was a dancer and there were screens behind me. Still never recorded. But this is before, you know, you had serialized podcasts about wrongful convictions. You had, you know, or you'd have, you know, HBO doing Night Of. You know, these things didn't exist, and there weren't a lot of contemporary shows in New York or anything like that. So it was super unique for when it was written. I didn't know that at the time that what I was doing was preparing for 2019. And in those 5 years, I ended up selling 30, 40 million songs with other artists. But most of those artists came to me somehow because of The Wrong Man. So many of those people hosted, you know, heads of record companies hosted it in their living rooms and in their kitchens when I was struggling because it was just entertaining. It wasn't about selling records. There's nothing about this project that's made for how can I sell as many albums as possible. It's purely just to entertain. I just didn't know what I was doing. it was when I was writing for other artists that I was so invested in, oh yeah, that's right. If I write certain kinds of hooks and certain lyrics, this could probably travel internationally, and you get into song math and all these other things. Right. But The Wrong Man is something that's so pure to me. And we crafted it up until the day we recorded it. 7 Grammy-nominated producers or winners, nominated or winning producers played on the album. You know, Ricky Reed produced it, who did Lizzo and, you know, Leon Bridges, let alone,
right?
yeah, 21 Pilots, and Nate Mercereau played on it, and the Dr. Dre rhythm section, Mike Elizondo on bass, and I mean, Johan Carlsson, who I wrote Dangerous Woman and My House, played on it, played piano on it. Neal Avron, who produced Waitress, he mixed it. I mean, all those people did it because they heard it in living rooms, because they fell in love with it. All the people who are doing the show in New York, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, all of those guys, they all saw it in an office when I played it, and they said, well, we got to do this. So it's amazing where so much of my day job, we'll call songwriting my day job. It's a nice day job, but you know, most of our job is trying to elevate the artist so the artist gets more and more recognition. And in this case, I'm not famous, and I'm not trying to be famous. I'm trying to work for The Wrong Man because it itself is worth that. And all the people who are involved in this project fell in love with the content. So it's amazing to see how many people have put their name on the line for this project.
Well, you say you don't want to be famous, right? And that's not the goal. But was that initially the goal? I mean, you're signed, I think, at 22, 23 as a performer, right? As a front-facing artist. Was the goal at that point to be famous?
I'm not you know, it's weird. When you first start and you're when you play a guitar, I mean, most people who write songs write about love, and they write about things that are generally relatable. And my first album that was signed was an album called Reagan Baby, and it was mostly political, and I learned very quickly that it has a very nuanced audience. So I don't know that I knew what I was aiming for at that time, but you know, I don't know if fame was the thing. I think I was just trying to write really interesting lyrics. So some of it's a byproduct, but
you're still probably doing today when you write for other artists.
Sure.
Right? Yeah.
Totally. Well, I always say, you know, it's like My House is written about how my wife and I don't go out. You know what I mean? So it's not that really all, you know, you make it a ballad and it's the sweetest song you've ever heard, but all of a sudden you add in that pre-chorus, you drop my voice down, it sounds like Flo Rida, I call Flo, you want to do this? Yeah, sure, let's do it. All of a sudden it becomes a huge song. I mean, I don't know how that happened, but.
So if on the topic, and we will get to the show because this is very exciting what's happening in New York this fall, but you talk about you as a songwriter. Why do you think, if you can say so or theorize, why does an artist come to you specifically?
That's interesting. It really depends on who the artist is. I mean, I think I'm really a good therapist. And if I'm doing my job well in a session, I'm allowing them to say something and helping them say something that they want to say that they don't know how to say on their own, or they don't have the time to say on their own. These people are touring around the world, and they're the best artists and singers in the world. They may have 1 week to record half an album. So they need people in the room that can help get out of them what can take me as an artist a month to write a song, because I'm not in a rush. You know, a lot of these artists need to get something out, and I think I'm good at pulling that out. And I also am really... I really am into composition. I'm a real music dork and song dork, so I want to get in there and I want to craft this audible illusion and make you think as a listener. And you know, I love the nuances of crafting a song.
Right. How often do you have a conversation, a venting session, even with an artist, right? And they think they know what the song is supposed to be about, right? They go through a breakup and they think, well,
Sure.
I think the song should center around this. Yeah. How often do you come back and go, actually, no, I think the song is actually about this?
Every day.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm wrong all the time. That's one of the best parts of being a songwriter is you have to walk into a room and be wrong a lot. I always say, if you want to know what it's like to be a songwriter, walk into a room of people you don't know, sing at them, and then ask what they think. So you have to walk in there, and then you have to be vulnerable. So much of collaborating as an artist is walking in and being confident in being wrong. And so most of the artists that I work with are seasoned enough to also be comfortable being wrong. So they can come and say, this is my concept, but something's missing, and then I can help them shape that.
How do you I mean, I alluded to it a little bit before, but I'd love somebody with your pedigree's opinion on this. Is just the arguable homogeny of music today, right? And this playlist culture, right? And I love playlists. Like I've heard you talk before about we used to live in a world of aisles, and I thought that was a really cool way to articulate that, right? And now, there are no aisles, there are no borders, anything like that. But when things are being ruled by playlists, which are basically ruled by the idea of, well, if you like this, you'll like this, right?
Yeah.
So if I write a song that sounds like an Ed Sheeran song, then on Ed Sheeran radio on Spotify, maybe I'll get playlisted and then discovered, right? Or maybe I'll be put onto a Discover Weekly, et cetera, et cetera. Is that good or is that bad, though, for songwriting? Because isn't that now inspiring, would you say, people to just write songs like whatever's on Top 40?
Yeah, I don't know if that's any different than it's always been. It's just it's easier for people to write songs right now and record. Instead of people getting a guitar, they might get a computer where they have programs already attached to it. So it's easier for them to produce at home and emulate what's out there. But I don't know that that's different than a guy in the 60s holding a guitar wanting to sound like Bob Dylan, or in the 70s wanting to be James Taylor, or so on and so forth. I do think that the problem in what you're pointing at is that when you have these playlists, they do reward homogeny. They do reward when songs sound similar. And a lot of the producers, they'll literally in a session, let's say you're the artist, you'll walk in, I only have a day with you. I'm going to open up my last session. I'm going to wipe out all the instruments, but probably keep the drums. So all the drums all sound the same for most of these producers because they don't have the time. I'm going to lay down a new piano chord change, but maybe even use the same plugin. So then therefore my piano now sounds the same. Pick up the same guitar because unlike in the 80s or previous to that, you'd need all the instrumentation to be different. In The Wrong Man, what's cool about it is that I played it live over 4 nights and we edited that. And then all the people who played on it, Trevor Lawrence on drums, he makes his own drums. There's nobody sampling anything on that. When you have Mike Elizondo on bass, nobody else can play that bass line. He's the greatest bassist, one of the best in the world. Not hyperbole, just is, These guys, we had to bring real instruments in and play live. They played live to my live recordings. So that's why it sounds the way it does. Versus, and a lot of times I think when you hear certain genres and certain playlists, they're encouraging the homogeny of it. Right. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And it actually ties really nicely back to The Wrong Man, because that sort of live instrumentation probably lends itself a great deal to the live show we're going to be getting this fall, right?
Yeah, the show's even totally different. First of all, the album is me telling the story. When you have 14 people on stage and a multi-ethnic cast with a bunch of Tony-nominated actors, my job is to make it so that they have their own voice. The actors playing the characters, all of them need their own voice. Right. Josh Henry and Ryan Vasquez, Sierra Renee, these people need their own, they have their own voice. So that's what's so exciting about the show. You have some of the songs in the album aren't in the show. Some of the songs in the show are new and unique. The album has 16, 17 songs. The show has 24 songs. So there's a big difference. Not to mention that you have, Tommy Kail, who directed it, and I was directing it, and Alex Lacamoire, who's the music director. They're the best. Yeah. When I talk about Alex Lacamoire, the guy got his honorary doctorate from Berkeley this year, alongside of Justin Timberlake and Missy Elliott. He did, Greatest Showman, Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen, and In the Heights. And then you have Tommy Kail, who obviously did Hamilton, and this is their first show since Hamilton. Crazy. How do you digest that, man? That's crazy when I say it like that in front of you people. But the album is the seed of it. So it's so exciting for people to spend an hour to listen to an album, that takes a certain amount of time and focus. But those people continue to shout from the rooftops what this album is doing to them, because they're being entertained in a way that an audiobook or a movie or a TV show would happen for an hour. So it's exciting for people to discover this. And, you know, again, like, I feel like I'm working for this content. You know, I feel like I'm I'm evangelizing this thing. So, yeah, it's this long evolution. If you follow this and you get to see the animation, which hopefully will be coming out soon, and then you get to see the show, and then you get the cast recording in the future, and maybe it goes to Broadway, all those things will be part of this path that people who start listening now can help carry it.
Do you think it ends there? I mean, I mean, the evolution, the growth of this really idea has been so tremendous over the past 14 years. Does it become even bigger potentially?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's cool about art if you don't record it.
Right.
Everyone's in such a rush to write a song, release it on Friday, have it gone on Friday, start the process again, try to keep up with trends, all this stuff. But if you just stay patient and you just stay honest with yourself and you believe in yourself, you can actually create an art that's growing, and it's never done. It's okay to keep making changes, make it better, make it better. When Kanye was releasing new mixes of Ye after it was released, that's such a badass thing to do. You know, he was not content with it once it was released and remixed it even though it had already been released. Not remixing as in the, you know, the DJ term, but literally like going in and almost reproducing these already done songs. That is what art can be. That's the perk of playlists. That's the perk of where we're at. You can just let these things build and grow and change. So whether I'm going to play it on acoustic guitar for you and you hear it in that form, or when you listen to the band version and you hear the album, or you hear the stage production where you have Josh Henry's voice, you know, it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And it'll grow as far as people will be willing to watch it grow. If it becomes, you know, a movie and it becomes a TV show that's a serialized TV show, who knows?
Yeah.
But why not let it mature on its own and keep opening doors for it?
Yeah, it's such a cool approach. Let's get to some fan questions here in the studio. The first is going to come from over here.
Hi, I'm a really big And the Writer Is fan. So hello.
Hey, there you go. Clap to you. I don't know if I should clap on this microphone. But
You're good. So my question is, you started off as a songwriter and you're based in LA and you write pop music. Was that always the plan, or was musical theater writing always the plan and you just got into pop writing because it was maybe more viable or it was a location thing? And was that switch from pop writing to musical theater writing difficult, and pros and cons?
Well, the first part of the question is, I just walk through doors. I don't know what talent I have or don't have, but I know one thing that I do is I don't, you know, there's what is the quote? More is lost from indecision than bad decision. So I tend to just choose to do something and then I own it. Because if I have any anxiety in life, it comes from not finishing things. So if I come up with an idea, I have to finish it through. But what happens in that means that then if I'm thinking I need to complete this album, I need to finish writing it, that meant that in my head I wasn't satiated until I finished this album. And then it was like, well, you know, I should probably perform this album, so I'm going to go and start figuring out how to do that. And I just kept doing it. And the doors kept opening because people found quality in the material, and they would open doors. I'd walk through it. You want to fly to this city? All right, let's do it. You want to fly to this city? Okay. We're thinking of putting it on stage. Why not? We're going to do this interview right now. Okay. You know, let's go put it on stage here. Sure. And just make it the best you can. And if, you know, whether it's somebody saying from this, you know, Wendy Goldstein, who runs Republic Records, used to host it in her kitchen. Or Aaron Bashuk or John Janik, who ran Interscope, and now Aaron's over at Warner. They used to see it in living rooms. Because of that, they opened doors for this and for me as a writer. So I just keep walking through doors. the podcast and the writer is something where I said I needed to do a podcast, and my friend literally overheard me say it. Said, I can do a podcast. I said, can you? He goes, I don't know, but let's do it. We do this podcast, and now we have millions of downloads, and it's just because, well, all right, well, if we're going to have this idea, let's own it. And let's just keep the bar as high as possible.
So is it more of like a sticking to your guns thing versus checking boxes? Like, I need to do this, I need to do this. And
yeah, I mean,
your
you
gut?
can only check boxes in retrospect. I didn't know that I was going to have hits, or let alone hits, multiple hits. I mean, come on. I was eating pasta with butter and salt for dinner. Like, this was not, I didn't know that anyone was, there were points where I was sure no one's going to listen to anything I ever write. You know, I didn't know where it was going to go. Now it seems like I had this whole plan. Best thing I did, though, was that with these projects is I saw them through, again, the way Haydn taught Mozart, and who was the mentor for Beethoven. He wasn't super prolific, but he convinced these people, the father of the symphony, to take their time, just finish things well. Some of them were prodigies, but some of them just have to grind through, and that's me. I'm the grinder. I'm definitely not the prodigy. I don't know if that answers your question. But.
No, it totally does. And then pros and cons of musical theater writing versus pop songwriting. Was that difficult to do the switch, or?
I don't know. I hate defining what the difference is. The difference is that some other people get to sing it. The cool thing about theater writing is that when you do an album, you know, and if I write a song and Selena Gomez does Same Old Love and Fetty Wap comes on as a feature, that counts as a feature. If all of a sudden I'm doing it as a musical, you have Selena Gomez, the character, and in comes Fetty Wap, and he comes on stage and he does this feature. You know, that's really the difference, is that you get to create a world where all of the characters are their own pop stars.
Totally. Time for one final question. Will come from over here.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, what's up, buddy? Okay.
My question is, can you talk about the adaptation from first it went from acoustic guitar to full band, and then taking that full band album now to the stage? Can you talk about like your kind of hands-on role working with the musical director in like orchestrating?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Lack and Tommy this morning at 8:30 in the morning, so I mean, it's still being worked on. It's still improving. We're still chiseling this, you know, whatever you would call it. Again, we know when you're playing an acoustic guitar in a room full of people, I didn't know I was workshopping anything. But in reality, there were times where I would perform certain songs where I realized there was some information missing. So I would go back, and I figured I would just finish the story and go back and fix the next song. By the time the band came and we were recording, I didn't, you know, this is your one shot at recording it. So, I mean, I was challenging myself to the very last performance, because we did them live. That last night, I added some things that ended up on the recording, and you just own it. Even though, you know, you're changing right now, you know, if Tommy and Lax say, we don't know if this song fits, you know, if it's sonically, they feel like maybe the music doesn't fit, maybe I have to rewrite the song around the same content. Maybe the content doesn't make any sense at all in a form of 14 people telling it, you know? So it's still just living. I think that's what's really exciting about it. I don't know any other projects that I've worked on that get to evolve. Usually the song's out there, and there are probably some things that I would change on a number of songs that I've had out there, but it's not my place to go and call, there's one song. Sorry, but there's one song. He's not going to be watching this, so it's fine. Gavin DeGraw, I did a song called Fire, and there's a part in it where I called it a Pack Alliance tonight, but it's a Pride Alliance. And the song came out, and there was a music video and the whole thing. And one of my friends just sent me, I was like, maybe no one will know. So my friend goes, Pride of Lions. And it text, I was just, no, someone did notice. But, you know, you can't change it once it's out. And what's great about this thing is that it's still able to evolve.
Great questions. Very insightful questions today, Bill. We're out of time for the interview portion, but you're going to be very nice and perform some songs in just a little bit. So if you're joining us live on buildseries.com, don't go anywhere. And again, Wrong Man, you can check out the album, of course, right now. And then do you have dates we can promote for the actual show?
Sure. Well, first of all, when I play, I'm going to play the first 4 songs. So that
awesome.
way, you know, rather than cherry pick, I don't want people to cherry pick it like a playlist. I want people to hear it. So I'm going to just play for the top of the thing. But the, you know, previews start September 18th at MCC Theater on 52nd and 10th. And it's going really fast. It opens October 7th officially. So coming out, say hi.
That's going to be awesome, guys. One more time for Ross.